Hello, my name is Diana Delacruz-Aparicio. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am a retention specialist at the Academic Advancement Center, and I also coordinate the Thrive-Grad program. Today, I'm going to be talking about financial aid for the RIFE seminar, so thank you all for being here. This is my second attempt at trying to record this because my first recording was 50 minutes long, and Mitch told us to keep it within 30 to 40 minutes. I'm going to try to make sure I do this right the second time around. A couple of things I want to go through before we get started is I just want to acknowledge that folks are going through a lot of different financial situations at this time, and there are a lot of things that impact your financial aid at the institution, and so we are going to be covering a few things, and I am going to make sure that I include information that applies to all of our students. And I encourage you to also write down any questions that come up for you at either the beginning or throughout this presentation, so that you can feel like you can follow up with your retention specialist or with anyone in your Arrive seminar, and that it feels like you are getting some questions answered. I know that it's hard with engagement doing a pre-recording. So I'm going to try to do my best, and I think what would be helpful is if you all feel like you also have access to resources afterwards. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so these are the things that we are going to be talking about today in this presentation. We are diving deep into understanding your RamWeb. And by that, right, we're going to talk about what are the different types of financial aid that are included on your RamWeb, how you can continue to apply for financial aid, and how you can continue to plan for the future. If it's helpful for you to pull up your own RamWeb and follow along and pause this video when you need to, I encourage you to do so. And it's okay if you're not doing that, you have access to this video on the Canvas RamWeb shell. Let's see. And I am gonna include all the information from this presentation. What I'm trying to say is, let me back up. All the information that is included in this presentation is pulled from the website of the Office of Financial Aid at CSU. And so I just wanna give you that information afterwards as well. So I'll include the links to the direct pages of the website so you have access to additional information that might not be included on here. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started with your RamWeb. So I just wanna give you a breakdown of what your RamWeb includes, and some of y'all have already looked at this. Some of these things are already familiar, and you might have questions about a few, so I'm just going to go through each one. So I'm looking on another laptop over here just so I have some notes. So the first thing you'll see is the Pay My Bill section, and so this is where you get to make direct payments. It'll ask you for a bank account information as a form of payment rather than a check or cash, so it'll ask for an account number. It'll only let you change it a few times, I believe. I think it gives you up to 2 times to change it. So make sure that you're using something that's going to be long-term. The billing information right here is going to give you the breakdown of the bill and when it's due. And that's where you'll find more of those details. And so if you have things from the bookstore, if you have different fees, that's where you can see a little bit more of those details. The direct deposit refund sign up is where you get to include your bank account information so that you can have these funds sent directly to your account rather than waiting for those in the mail. I believe this section is no longer on your RamWeb. We don't have access to your RamWeb. So if this is not accurate, I apologize. We do our best to update these pieces on our end. Tax information includes the 1098 form that breaks down tuition for folks who are doing taxes. If you are dependent, it's important to have this as well. And these are also just like further things to help you understand your bill. Let's go ahead and keep going. So the next piece is going to your awards section, right? So you'll go from the financial aid page, you'll click on awards and requirements, and then you'll select the year, and then it'll take you to this page. You'll have a couple of requirements or like a to-do list that might come up here, and that'll always show up in red. So make sure that you're always checking that activity, and it gives you deadlines usually. So just make sure that you're looking at those. If you have any questions about those, make sure to reach out to us and we can help you navigate those. Once they're completed, they turn green, and that's an indicator that it's all completed. Okay, so now we're gonna go, so we're back here, right? We're gonna go to the awards section. This is as if we were clicking awards. So moving forward, this is where you're gonna see the breakdown of the estimated cost of attendance at the top. This is usually a long page with scholarships, grants, work study, and loans. At the top, you'll always see something that looks like this. I recreated what it would have looked like on your RamWeb just because we had one that was a little outdated and it was a little hard to see. So I also updated some of the tuition pieces that the Office of Financial Aid has updated in terms of the cost. It might not be super accurate with like some of these like additional things on their website, but these are just rough estimates and pretty updated. So this is just an estimate. An estimate is for to give students an idea of like what tuition might look like for you this year, and it includes the semesters and then the total amount. And so this is what a typical tuition looks like, and this is for in-state. We have things that include tuition and fees, additional tuition charges, books and supplies, housing and meals, and these are like high numbers to give folks like a buffer, right? So my books might have not been 600, they might have been 200 for the fall and maybe 200 for the spring. This is also the cost of maybe one of the residence halls that is a little more on the higher end, and so maybe mine was at 4,000 instead of the 6,000 one. Transportation, if you're thinking about study abroad, right? And so this just gives you an idea. Doesn't mean that this is what your actual tuition is going to be. It's just things to consider, especially if you're planning semester to semester, if you want to study abroad, if you want to stay on campus the next year, things to think about. Let's go ahead and move on. Okay, so after the estimated cost of attendance, when you scroll down, this is where you're going to see the grants and scholarships. This is also just an example of some of the awards and what it'll look like on your RamWeb. And so this is your free money that's always after the estimated cost of attendance. These are always taken out before your loans. And so as you're getting these awarded, right, those are always prioritized. Some other grants include federal Pell Grant or the RAM grant. These are examples. And so it'll always give you the breakdown of what you're receiving each semester and the total, and if it was paid out. The Global Access Award is an award for folks who want to do a study abroad at different semesters. And so for this example, this student is using it for the spring, and this is how much was paid out and their total. And then so you'll see the total down here, right? You'll always see highlighted numbers of like, what is the estimate? How much are you getting to total up to the estimate? And you'll continue to see that with like your loans and work study. Okay. Let's go ahead to work study. So work study will always come after your scholarships and grants. And there are different types of work study. And so work study is financial aid awarded via the FAFSA or the request work study. And so your FAFSA application is really where you'll indicate that you're looking for work study, and that'll be based on need. There's also an application from the institution where there is a no need work study, and that'll be available May 1st every year. If those things change, the financial aid office will notify students. Currently, the highest amount students can receive for work study is $3,000. And work study is like what it really is you're getting paid by the federal, like it's coming from the federal and it's coming from like the institutional funds, right? And so the Office of Financial Aid, well, the AAC, we require work study from our student employees. And so we pay for half of the wages and the work study program pays for the other half. So that's what work study is. And you get paid directly. It doesn't go to your tuition. Let me see. If you weren't offered work study, how can you request it? Like I said, you can request it on your RamWeb, typically May 1st, and the Office of Financial Aid will look at those applications and they will choose based on how much they have availability for students. And so apply every year if you're looking for this. And just know that there are employment opportunities on campus that don't require work study, and that's usually the hourly positions. This just helps so that you don't have additional loans that are offered to you, right, on your RamWeb. If you have more questions about work study, talk to your retention specialist. You can also use the handbook that I'm going to include on the link, as there are more like Q&As about work study. And you want to make sure that you try to use this if you can when you are awarded work study. If you don't use it for the entire year that you're awarded, you might not be awarded work study the following year. Okay, let's making sure I'm staying on track. The next thing you'll see after your work study is student loans. You'll always see the subsidized loan option at the top, and then you'll see an unsubsidized loan as your second option. All subsidized loans need to be taken out before any unsubsidized loans. So think about that. Like, why may that be? What do you know about subsidized loans, and what do you know about unsubsidized loans? So if you are thinking that subsidized loans are the loans without any interest when you initially take it out, that is correct. So we want you to take out your subsidized loans out first because they're not accruing any interest until 6 months after you graduate. Unsubsidized loans accrue interest as soon as you take them out. And so you'll see this, right? You'll be able to click on it and accept, reduce, or decline. If you don't need the full amount that they're offering, do not take out the full amount. You can reduce it to a different number. And that's part of taking something out responsibly, and just really know your options. And if you have some savings, if you have support, if you're able to pay a little out of pocket, anything will help so that you don't have to take out the max that you are offered. After you take out your subsidized, you can take out your unsubsidized loans. And so for this example, this is just what is being offered based on semester, in terms of like what is the estimated cost, how much are they getting awarded in scholarships, grants, and work study. If it's not quite there to the full tuition, they will offer different loan options, right? Let's see. Parent loans will be included at the bottom of this, but just a couple of things to remember about loans is that the deadline to accept loans is on the Wednesday of finals week during the last term of enrollment for the academic year. You are able to start making payments towards your loan right away if you are interested, especially if you are doing unsubsidized loans and that isn't accruing interest. So you are allowed to do that. You have 14 business days from the date of your loan disbursement to cancel or reduce your loan. So just make sure that if something changes that you're able to cancel that out, and keep an eye out for any communication from the financial aid office. Some tips on here to accept or decline these. Go to your RamWeb to review this every semester when you're awarded your award for the next year. For the first-time borrowers, you must complete a master promissory note and loan entrance counseling through this website. And so it'll direct you to do this online. It's just giving you a breakdown of how loans work, important information to think about long-term, how to prepare for those after you graduate. And it's a great resource. I know that when I took this, I was a little overwhelmed with information for the loan entrance counseling, and I feel like I didn't really refer to it until after I graduated. And I wish I would have saved this website somewhere where I would have tracked all my loan information so that I really felt like I was looking at it constantly, feeling more comfortable, asking questions about it. So that by the time I graduated, I felt pretty good with this information, right? So I would encourage you to keep track of loans in whatever way works for you, and to keep track of this website, right? And this is for your federal loans, and this is where you access all of your loans when you graduate. I'm still able to go into this and look at my undergrad, my grad school loans because of my FAFSA, and this is where I can see what was the original interest, when did I take out these loans, what is the total now. And so it's a really helpful website, and they have a ton of tips and resources for all students who had federal loans. Great thing to have. And know that this conversation about loans is scary, and that we'll continue to have this with you in the AAC, throughout campus resources. So we encourage you to try to continue to engage in the conversation with student loans, because it can be scary and we're here to help. So ask any question. Okay, so after the after the student loans, you'll see parent loans. And so that'll be at the bottom. So think of it as like your best case scenario, okay, other resources, and this is like the last resort. So for parent loans, you'll have something offered or maybe not. And this is also where you can accept, reduce, or decline. Know that if you have a parent or guardian who is doing this loan, that there is going to be a credit check. If denied, the borrower can obtain an endorser, and students can request additional unsubsidized loans if they are not wanting to do a parent loan. So if you are thinking about this, I would encourage you to really talk to whoever whoever is in your family who is taking on this loan to really make this decision, because usually there's a higher interest in this and the loan is a lot higher. And so think about long-term pieces with that. And talk to the financial aid office, talk to us, so that you feel like you have all the resources and information before you make a decision. We work directly with a financial aid liaison who helps all of our AAC students. And we just want to make sure that if you have any questions or concerns and you're feeling really stressed out, that we can connect you with these resources. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the different types of aid that might be included in your RamWeb. So everything that you have is either federal or non-federal. So look at your RamWeb and think about, do I know what is federal and non-federal? And so federal is really anything that is awarded by the federal government. It's based off of FAFSA. It includes federal loans, grants, and work study. Non-federal includes anything that was awarded by the state. And so that's also like institutional awards, like CSU awards, anything from like a local school district that you're bringing with you, private scholarship foundations. And so think about like what is federal and what is not. Let's see. For students who don't qualify for FAFSA, we encourage you to reach out to us so that we can get you connected with our financial aid liaison to talk about how we can continue to support you with financial aid pieces. So I just want to make sure that our students know that as well. So let's go back to this conversation about student loans, right? So here are a couple of things that we want folks to consider when they're thinking about loans. We don't want you to shy away from it. We know that students might have to take out a loan, and that's okay. It's an investment towards your education, but we want you to feel like you have all the information before you make that decision. So borrow responsibly. So that goes back to what I was saying earlier about only taking out what you need. If there are other things that you need for your personal expenses, talk to us and maybe we can help you figure out how you can receive additional resources. If it's money for like food, right? How can we get you connected to the food pantry on campus rather than you having to take out a loan, things like that. That's just an example. The second is it's okay to be afraid of loans. I think about like, why was I initially afraid of loans? And it's because I never really had the conversation with my family. It was something really scary. And I knew that resources like the AAC and other mentors that I had really wanted to help me talk through it so that I had all the information. And as I continue to talk to more people about it, I felt like it was okay. And I knew the resources that I had. It's initially hard to understand it, but we'll continue to have these conversations in the Thrive program and Thrive-Grad. You'll see other things on campus. So utilize those so that you feel best prepared. Plan for the future. So when we're talking about planning for the future, we want you to think about like, what is your career goal? And thinking about long-term, what is the implications of me taking out this loan my first year? What does that mean the following years at CSU? Am I gonna be in this debt that I might not be able to pay based on my income? And it's hard to project those things, but with loans, you can really project what will be the total at the end, right? You know that you have 6 months after you graduate to pay. And so something that the Office of Financial Aid does that I think is very good is really talking through more like long-term impact, because sometimes it can be really hard to see a student take out a huge amount of loan if it feels like their career goals and the income that might align, that might be there in the future, might not be something stable to pay for a huge amount of that loan, right? And so that's really hard, but it's a conversation that is intentional in terms of making sure that the student is aware of those pieces and isn't being impacted in a negative way long term. It's highly unlikely to graduate without student loans, and that's hard to hear, and I think that that's hard for me to even know that that's the reality for a lot of students. And we want to make sure that we can help you along the way so that you're not having to depend on loans. And that's just really important to know that maybe you don't have to take out loans right now, but maybe in your upper division, with your upper division courses, you might, and that's okay. Consider federal loans versus private loans. And so this is where FAFSA comes in as like a really important piece of your financial aid, right? You want to make sure you're completing FAFSA so that the loans that are being offered are federal, because those have lower interest rates and they won't have the interest accruing when you take it out like the unsubsidized loans do. Sometimes folks go towards private loans because it offers more a bigger loan amount than what is being offered with the financial aid office. Okay. Just additional information for your non-federal student aid. So with grants, right here, a few examples of some of the grants on campus. You will have a criteria usually with these, so make sure that you're checking on your RamWeb. Let me go back to the page, to this page. Typically, you'll have like a little icon here where you'll click on it and it'll give you information about that award, about the renewal criteria and how to keep it. So maybe this one requires you to stay above 2.0 for you to be full-time. And those are really good things to remember to click on and check. If you have any awards that don't have that icon, it might be because it's like a non-federal piece, or it's not a CSU award. And so you'll just have to make sure that you track that on your own with all of your awards, so that you know if they're renewable, if you just have one for 1 year, if this is requiring me to keep a 3.0 or above GPA. So just make sure that you know all those pieces. That applies for both grants and scholarships. Just because you received a grant for this year doesn't mean that you'll always have it, right? So this is just like a reminder about to check your criteria for all of your awards. Some few examples of where your scholarships might be coming from, right? Local organizations, scholarship foundations like DSF, Daniels Fund. They can be coming from CSU. We have, for example, the First Generation Award, the Green and Gold. Most of them will have a renewal criteria, so just make sure that you're looking at that on the scholarships and grants section. Once you lose a scholarship, there's no guarantee that you'll be able to receive it again. I think for these upcoming years, students have had to consider taking a leave of absence or have had to withdraw for different reasons, and we totally understand that. I think an important piece with this is that you try to connect with the folks from that award foundation or anyone that you're working with from that scholarship or grant to really get an insight of like, what are those implications if you leave the university? Will you be awarded the grant or scholarship again if you return in the next semester? Are you losing it forever? Some scholarship foundations are allowing students to take a leave of absence and come back and still be awarded this. And those are just some steps folks are taking to really help students out during this time. So just make sure that you're reaching out and that you're asking these questions because that's an important piece for a lot of folks right now. Like I said, work study, it's not considered merit-based anymore. It's either need-based or non-need-based. One of them is through FAFSA, and the other is through your RamWeb application if you're not awarded work study initially through FAFSA. So just know that you have a couple of options. And other non-federal student aid includes family support, parental guardian support, from savings, or private alternative loans. Okay, now we're going to talk about the CSU scholarship application, also known as the CSUSA. And so this is something that students apply to every year, and it usually opens up October 1st, and it can be found on your RamWeb. This is an application that we encourage students to do every year. We know it can be time consuming, it can be stressful, but really take the time to do this early. We always tell students to take time during their fall break or winter break to do this because it can be hard to manage academics in this, but really a lot of students will try to do this during those breaks. Completing the requirements for the CSU include doing a general application that will apply to a variety of CSU and external scholarships. And then what you can do is do an additional application for other scholarships that are more specific, that might be included with like your major or some identity pieces such as first generation. So you'll do a general one, and then you can do additional supplemental like applications for specific scholarships. With these scholarships, typically you'll be asked to submit recommendation letters, and this is CSU students all doing this application at the same time, asking for faculty or staff to fill out a recommendation letter for them. And so a tip for this is to ask early, because there might be faculty who are asked by 25 students to do a recommendation letter. And so realistically, this can be really stressful for some staff and faculty. So just make sure that you're building these connections early. If there are folks who you're still connected with from before college, use those. And so just make sure that you're taking advantage of those connections, that you're keeping those connections, and that you're communicating early. Let me just mention, usually this is due also when, let's see, March 1st, I believe. I can't remember right now, and I apologize, but you'll see all of that information on your RamWeb when you open up this application. So just make sure you give yourself a little bit of an earlier deadline so that you're not stressing out right before the deadline. Okay, how can you continue to receive financial aid? Always complete your FAFSA. We understand that some students are not eligible to complete the FAFSA, and reach out to us as your retention specialist so that we can help you navigate this. Like I said before, we are connected with a liaison at the Office of Financial Aid, and we just want to make sure that all of our students are being served as well. Maintain satisfactory academic progress. So at CSU, anything above a 2.0 is maintaining good, satisfactory academic progress. And so just keep an eye on your GPA. Earn 67% of your attempted coursework, so that what that means is that you're taking the coursework that you need towards a degree, right? That you're staying on track. If you're taking a bunch of different courses and you don't have a major, I think that we just want to make sure that you stay on track so that you're not on campus and you're losing a little bit of money if you need a couple more years. We just want to make sure we're keeping you on track towards your degree. Same thing, the next piece is like saying something similar. Keeping up with your scholarship requirements, right? And so it's good to know what those requirements are for all of your grants and scholarships. So keep an eye out on that. That typically includes being a full-time student, so 12 credits or above, maintaining good GPA, so 2.0 and above. For some, there might be higher GPA requirements, so just know what that is for all of your awards. And there might be other scholarships that include other requirements. Be aware of changes. With this, we talk about differential tuition. Differential tuition is saying that there might be some upper division courses within your major that cost a little bit more, and that looks different across different departments. So the College of Business and maybe the College of Engineering, their upper division courses, their price might be a little bit higher compared to Human Development Family Studies. Upper division courses will be higher, but not as high as like the College of Engineering or the College of Business. And so within the Office of Financial Aid, you can see what those differences are from each department. It's good to see. So I will also include that in the link. I didn't realize what this was until I was in my upper division courses around my last couple of semesters, and my tuition was always really good. I didn't have to take out loans, and I found myself having to take out loans the last couple semesters, and I didn't really understand why. Nothing had really changed. I had kept all my awards throughout every semester. I had been living off campus already, and I was fine, and I was confused. But I think when someone was trying to explain to me this differential tuition as a student, I didn't really understand that, but now I understand that. So just know that this might be where students might be taking out a little bit more loan though. Helpful resources for you all to move forward with additional support includes, right, the Office of Financial Aid has a ton of resources on their website. I wish I could pull up the website here, but last time when I tried that, when I was recording, it didn't pull anything up. It didn't record the website coming up, and I was just talking and there was nothing on the screen. So the Office of Financial Aid has a tab for scholarships for students in-state and out-of-state. So check out that website. They're always trying to include a ton of resources for students. There's resources for parents. There's a handbook that they update every year for every academic year that you can use so that you can see any updated information regarding anything that I talked about in this presentation and anything that was missing on here. So I'll include that link with the description of this presentation so that you have access to it. And it's something that I wish I would have used more as a student, but it really breaks down a lot of great information in a simple way, I would say. Federal Student Aid website. This is where you track your loans. This is the website that I still use to track everything. This is where you'll do the entrance and exit loan counseling. So when you reduce and accept those loan pieces on your RamWeb, it'll direct you to do this. You'll have a login, and I believe it's the same login with because this website is the same website where you do your FAFSA. And so just make sure that you have that login information for your FAFSA, and the Federal Student Aid website is the same. Always keep that, because that login is what you need forever for your loans. Well, hopefully not forever, when you're able to pay off your loans and you don't have to take out loans again, but that login is the same one. So make sure you have that somewhere. This is where you'll see how to, ways and resources for you to repay it, and just other informative resources. Your AAC retention specialist. We are here to help for basic questions. We can look at your RamWeb together. We always like to do this in the first meeting and make sure that you feel pretty good about your RamWeb. If you have any questions, we'll help you walk through it. And if we can't answer any questions that you have, we can connect you with our financial aid liaison who can help in so many ways. So please reach out to us and let us know. Other things are these links that help you track your finances. We'll also have additional workshops with the Thrive program and Thrive-Grad. So just know that there's a ton within our office and also outside of our office. So these are just a few things for you to consider. That is all that I have. I'm sorry if I was a little confusing at times, or if I just repeated some information, or if there was anything that was not included and you had questions about. Just make sure you have those written down somewhere and bring them to your retention specialist in your meetings so that we can help you navigate those things. If you need to rewatch this video and go through your RamWeb or go through the links that I'll provide as from the financial aid office, do what you need to do and keep this somewhere, right, as a resource and guide, and know that this won't be the last time we'll talk about this, but hopefully this builds a foundational piece within the RIVE seminar for financial literacy. Thank you all for watching. Post any questions or concerns on your RIVE discussion board. Reach out to Mitch, reach out to your RIVE group navigators, and let us know if you need anything. Bye, take care.